Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Patricia Alba, Assistant Director of Communications and Work Life at UFHR. Thank you all for joining us for our wellness webinar with IFAS St. Johns County Extension Agent Wendy Wood. Before we get started, some housekeeping items. The webinar is being recorded and will be uploaded to our Work Life website and our YouTube channel. You are welcome to turn off your cameras if you don't want to be shown in the recording. Wendy will take questions as we go along, so if you can drop them in the chat and we'll be asking them throughout the presentation. And finally, please make sure your microphone is muted to avoid interruptions. With that said, Wendy, go right ahead.
Oh, well, thank you guys for having me. It's nice to see some familiar faces. And hopefully we'll get to see some of you at our next Med Instead of Med session next Monday evening. So again, I'm Wendy Wood. I'm a regional specialized agent here in St. Johns County for the Central District for Family and Consumer Sciences with IFAS Extension. I have a very lofty goal to get through everything today. So fingers, toes crossed, we can do it in an hour. A lot to share. So again, we're equal opportunity institution. If you have any complaints, we do have the poster I can come back to if needed. So again, today we are going to cover a pretty lofty agenda, but we're going to go through starting with knowing our budget, going into meal planning, ways to save, and then reducing food waste, because if we're wasting food, we're throwing our dollars down the drain, so to speak. And before we begin our big journey into eating healthy on a budget, we first need to know what our food budget consists of and whether we're a household of 1, 2, a family of 4. We have to know how much we have on hand to be able to feed ourselves as well as our family. And in this chart, you can see food's a large percentage for US households. And this shows you for 2022, there was a range of spending from going down from the lowest to highest income. And so families range from about 5,000 almost to 16,000 annually, which represents 8 to 31.2% of our family income. And that's spending on food expenditures. So in late 2023, the U.S. Bureau of Labor and Statistics, they released the average cost of groceries for our general population. So was averaging around $5,700, which equated to about $475 a month. And I don't know if that sits with you this similar or not. And if you're wondering, the consumer units they refer to consist of not only families, but single people living alone, sharing a household with others, but they're financially independent, or 2 or more persons living together that share major expenses. We're going to zip through these. So this next chart is going to show us food expenditures at home and away from home. So I want you guys to type in the chat. What do you think influenced some of these choices? So you can see here, the orange is the food away. There was a dip here at about 2020. Maybe something we might be familiar with. Uh-oh, my screen got a little blended here. So again, you can see, let me jump down, convenience, yes, for sure. Family shopping, spending habits, income, food prices, maybe things weren't available. But food at home spending increased from $954 billion in 21 to 1.05 trillion in 22. And then the food away from home spending increased from that 1.6 or 1.16 trillion to $1.34 trillion in 22. And food away from home spending accounted for a little over half of that total food expenditure in 22. So eating out, which is not a big surprise because of the pandemic. You got it, David. And again, that's simply because people were ready to get back out there. The US food dollar. So what this is going to represent on this image is that the food dollar is going to consist of the dollars spent by US consumers. And this is either going to be on grocery items or eating out purchases. So where does our food dollar go? You can see that 34.1 cents per dollar went towards restaurants and eating out, whereas retail about 12.4 cents on the food dollar. So I was a little surprised to see that the eating out was more than a third of the food dollar. And retail, which is about 12.4 cents of the food dollar, has decreased. Now, and this is our grocers going to purchasing, not eating out. Get this, it decreased to its lowest share of the food dollar since 1995. I was blown away. Couldn't believe it. All right, so while your food budget does rely on several factors, income, cost of food, where and how often you shop, what you're shopping for, one tool that you can use, and you're going to find this is going to come out monthly, it's the USDA food plans, just to kind of get an estimate of what is a realistic number for food spending. And we're going to look at an example. So let's say you're a 2-adult household and you've got 2 kiddos, and we're going to use the moderate food cost plan. So for example, here's our adult female, our adult male, and then we have 1 kiddo that's a teenager, and then 1 in that 6 to 8 year range. And what that's showing us is that we could expect to spend about $312 a week, which equates to about $1,300 per month. And that's based on 4 weeks. But if you're for food budgets, you definitely want to come back and revisit it. Like I said, monthly, these USDA food cost budget are updated. So definitely give that a look see. And throughout our lifetime in general, you want to go back and maybe monthly revisit that food budget. Check out your spending behavior, especially if your financial situation has changed, your spending behavior may change. We know as kids get older, they tend to eat more and more, especially our teenage boys, right? And I always hear they'll eat us out of house and home. So again, kind of getting an idea of what's going to work to cover those food costs. And there is a grocery budget calculator that you can use online from IFAS State. And I'm going to put all of these links that we'll be talking about today in a document for Patricia, so she'll send that out when the recording's ready. So according to the USDA, the Economic Research and US Bureau of Labor and Statistics, Consumer Price Index data, I know we're all not surprised by this, but our US food prices have risen by 25% between 2019 and 2023. And so this is why knowing what your food budget is and why it plays such a big part in how we should spend our food dollars. And the general recommendation has been in the past between that 10 to 15% of your take home pay for food. However, I think we're leaning more toward that 15% now with the food costs. So if you've never tracked your food budget to see kind of how much do we actually spend, this means in the home and outside of the home, even when we stop at the little store to get a beverage, that's going to be included. So if you haven't, I encourage you to do it for about 2 weeks, and not just yourself, but everyone in your household, to give you a really clear picture on what you're spending money on. And it then gives you an opportunity as a family to also come together, talk about how you spent the money, where you could reduce your expenses based on your current expense. Do you think you'll have enough money for the end of the month? How much food did you have to throw out because of spoilage? We didn't get to it, or man, something came up, we didn't get to make that meal and it went in the trash. Make sure you compost if you can. All right, so let's assume now we have an idea of where our budget is, and we're going to find some ways to stretch that food dollar as well as ways to eat a little healthier as we go through the rest of the presentation. So if you're struggling to fit healthy foods in your monthly budget, hopefully you can find some opportunities in some of the sections today, not only to improve your diet, but also ways to save money on groceries. And so we're going to start with the essential strategy, and I hope I don't hear any moans and groans from this, to improve diet quality and do it within your food budget, but it is meal planning. Meal planning can absolutely save you time, it can save you money, and 100% truly set you up for success, especially when you're trying to eat healthy and balanced diet. Meal planning not only reduces some of the chances that you're let's say if we get home, what is the first thing? What do you want to do for dinner? If you don't have to go through that emotional trauma of finding something in the cabinet, you don't have to have that stress. You already know what you're going to be preparing for, because sometimes if we wait until the last minute, what do? Often we go out to eat. We might just grab something that's more of a convenience food. You got it. And also maybe some unhealthy decisions. So you do want to plan your meals before you write your grocery list. And this is the one you're taking for shopping for that week. Make enough menus for about 2 weeks. And when you're doing that, make sure you have your breakfast, lunch, dinner, and then any snacks as well. But again, 2 weeks is a good cycle, just simply because we're creatures of habit. And oftentimes we are going to eat the same things over and over. So start with that 2 week cycle. But if you're only shopping for a week, go ahead and write it for that 1 week. And you might remember the old food guide pyramid. It hasn't been around for a while now, but in 2011, this new symbol that you see, also called My Plate, was implemented. And you can see the website is choosemyplate.gov. There are a lot of resources that I'll be talking about today. And what this is a visual cue, and for us to encourage us to choose a variety of different foods from each of the food groups each day and also throughout our weeks. The food groups are also divided, as you can see on the plate. And what this represents is how much food we should be getting from each of the food groups. And those key messages that you see are focus on whole fruits, varying your veggies, vary your protein routine, make half of the grains whole grains, and move to low or fat-free dairy, and drink and eat less sodium, saturated fat, and added sugars. Sounds so easy. But we're going to look at each of these in order to not only make some healthy choices, but also to fit within your budget. And I love on this, it says the benefits of healthy eating add up over time, bite by bite. So try not to be overwhelmed by making healthy choices. Look at it little by little. One of the key messages was variety. And you can see here, and I was just sharing earlier with Patricia, there was another Fresh from Florida book, and look how beautiful all, you can kind of see it, all the beautiful colors of the fruits and veggies there, similar to what you see on this beautiful infographic by the American Heart Association. And you can see that the fruits and veggies are displayed as a rainbow in this particular graphic, but My Plate actually breaks it down into 5 subgroups, and it's determined by their nutrients, and it is by color. So that QR code, I believe, is going to take you to that American Heart Association. But again, I'll have all these links for you. So those 5 subgroups, again, they're really important, and the different colors. I know we've heard eat a rainbow. We're not talking about Skittles or any other colored candies. We are talking about our beautiful fruits and veggies because we want to promote good health. So the 5 subgroups that fall within My Plate are going to be that dark green veggies. You're going to have a red and orange group. There's going to be that starchy group, then beans, peas, and lentils, and then other. In selecting a variety of foods, you also want to choose nutrient dense foods. So foods and beverages. And these are going to be products that are going to contain vitamins, minerals, what we mentioned about My Plate, low in sugar, are following those key messages, low in sugar, low in saturated fat, as well as low in sodium. Let's take a closer look at that graph. And nutrient density is going to be often determined by how something is prepared. So we could take okra, which is going to be a great vegetable, but once we deep fry it, what did we just do? That nutrient density just went down. Is it going to still have some nutrients? Yes, but it's also going to have that saturated fat. So, and again, nutrient density is often determined by how things are prepared. So vegetables and fruits, whole grains, seafood, and each of the food groups prepared with little to no added sugars, no saturated fats and sodium, those would be considered nutrient dense foods. And the key is to begin shifting from those foods that are not nutrient dense to those who are a little bit more, that are going to provide us with some benefits. So if you look at that first line, so 80% lean ground beef. So at 80%, yes, it's still 80% lean, but this is showing us the total calories. And I'm hoping y'all are seeing my arrow, but the 209, I'm not worried about that so much as I am. Look at this added fat. Now, if we decided to choose a 97% lean beef, we're actually getting a more nutrient dense product. Same thing with this. This is breaded, fried cod. So this is the total amount here. 99 calories, or those are going to be nutrient dense calories, whereas 131 of those are the not so nutrient dense. Those are not the calories that we want. We want to have that nutrient dense. So the nutrients are going to be found here. They're going to be found in this portion. Same thing for whole milk. Nutrients are similar. And then here is where you're getting those nutrients. But then if you're having whole milk, this is where you're getting that milk fat. All right, so let's take a look at a few more examples. Then you've got that movie theater style popcorn with butter. Now they have the little pumps. I haven't been in a while, but the last time I saw, they have pumps where you can just add as much as you'd like on top of whatever's been added. You can see, and popcorn's a whole grain. It's like a superhero of the grains. We want to make half of our grains whole grains. And here, butter, even though it might be delicious sometimes, it's adding a lot of extra calories that are not nutrient dense. Same thing with a lot of our drinks that we might have on the go. Choose an espresso, but maybe go with a lower fat option of milk. You can see the milk. Oh, then we have the added sugars here. So the majority of what makes up this particular product is not nutrient dense. And so you get the gist. Same thing here with applesauce. So we want to get the most bang for our buck. And one consideration is that it's really important, especially as we get older, healthy aging, is that as we get older, we have lower calorie needs. And this is because of less activity, metabolism, age-related bone and muscle loss. But even our nutrient needs as older adults are going to be very similar to younger adults, but younger adults have a higher calorie level, whereas older adults are going to have a lower. So that just means those calories that you have, you want to make sure that they're nutrient dense. And that's where this graph comes in. And so we've covered the importance of choosing variety of colors and food groups when meal planning, and also including those nutrient dense foods. And we looked at My Plate messaging that can also be really helpful when you're meal planning. So again, those messages were focused on whole fruits, varying your veggies, vary your protein routine, make half of your grains whole grains, move to lower non-fat dairy, drink and eat less sodium, saturated fats, and added sugar. But there's yet another component to consider in meal planning, and that's where the recommended amounts for you and your family. You know, how much should you be getting of each of these food groups? So this is a cool tool that My Plate has available, and you can just Google My Plate Plan and it will pop up. And so if you're not sure, to kind of get an idea of how much of each food group we should aim for, when you get ready to meal plan, go to myplate.gov. And again, they have tons of tools, or you can just Google My Plate Plan. And I'm going to walk you through what it looks like. So the first part is you're going to select the start button. Once you do, let's click over. And so on this particular, so you're going to click in, it's going to ask for your age, your gender, and your activity level. And then we're going to jump to the next after we said calculate plan. So in this example, we're going to say this person is 55 years old, 150 pounds, 5'7", and they get less than 30 minutes of physical activity a day. So then we're going to hit calculate food plan, and it's going to pop up a screen that looks like this. So you can see here, it tells you the calorie amount, but what I'm more interested in, we're going to click the 1800 calories, and then what's going to pop up, it's going to have produce a 2-page document just like you see on the screen now, and it's going to have the general food group recommendations for each day, and then on page 2 it has a way for you to track your progress, and it's also going to have those My Plate recommendations. Don't these look familiar here? I think you've already heard them a few times today, but they're a good reminder. So it's saying now for that particular individual, we typed in the My Plate plan. This is the amount that we want to aim for each day. And if you think about 1.5 cups, not too much, 2.5 cups of vegetables, 6 ounces of grains, 5 ounces of protein. So that's really not that much. We tend to get a lot more protein in our diets, but it definitely is essential for maintaining good health. And remember, about 3 ounces, about the size of a deck of cards. So it's not that much. And then 3 cups of dairy. Of course, if you're lactose intolerant, you need non-dairy sources. There are other ways to get that calcium intake. What I love about this part of the My Plate plan is you can see it's fillable, so you can save it. It also has a check-in to see how you did. Did you meet your goal? And then that gives you an opportunity to kind of do some reflection. What was I missing this week? Oh, I was really low in my veggies. Next week, I'm going to add them in for snacks. So it really does help you along the way to improve your healthy lifestyle. Also, 2 very important areas about the added sugars and fats, but also being active. And I like that it says your way. So what the best kind of movement is the kind that you'll do. All right, so we are transitioning now. So if we went to our pantry, I would love to see the Instagram ready pantry, that everything is so neatly organized and labeled. It would just bring me so much joy. However, when you're busy and you have a family, oftentimes our pantry might look like this, a little disorganized. It might mean you have more things in your pantry than you actually need. You find out you've got 4, maybe 5 boxes of spaghetti noodles because you didn't realize they were already in there. You might end up with extra spices. One thought is, if your pantry does look more like this, you could probably go in, take a picture on your phone just to kind of give you an idea of what is in there, especially if you're running to the store on the fly. But what we want to do is we do want to know what's in our pantry, so we're not wasting our food budget on items that we already have. And keeping some of the basics in your kitchen really does make meal planning a lot easier. Think about some of the items you commonly use when preparing meals. The first thing that I think of is onions. You guys type in the chat. What are some things that when you think about things you know you're going to have, it could be in the refrigerator, the freezer, or the pantry, just common items? What might you have? Oh, definitely condiments. Okay, olive oil. Ooh, that makes my Mediterranean style lifestyle super happy. Good. Chickpeas. Yep. Spices, pasta, veggies, and soup. Excellent. You guys are putting in all the good stuff. I'm glad to see that. When I initially think of basic supplies, I think of like flour, milk, eggs, peanut butter. That was one. Good garlic, yogurt, butter, some of those really brown sugar is a good one. Just some of those basics. I don't know how many people still do a lot of scratch cooking, but if you do, that might be included in some of your basics. But what about your freezer? What might you have in your freezer? Any common items? I know a couple that I keep in there. Some frozen blueberries, meats. Yep. Bagel bites all day long. Love it. Chopped spinach. Yep. So a lot of these look like they're going to be items that you could pull together a meal pretty quickly. Just keeping some of those staples on hand. I know steamer bags are huge for me because they're quick, easy. I can take out either what I want, save it for later. Well, ice cream counts too, Melissa. That's important. All foods fit. Frozen shrimp and dinner rolls. So you guys have hit it all, because I love to see some of the bread too, especially because we're going to talk about breads and buying on sale. And what about your pantry? I know we covered a little bit about that. We said nut butters. What about dried fruit, maybe? Garbanzo beans were mentioned. Think breakfast foods. What are some common things you might have in there? Yep, oatmeal, grits, cereal. Yeah, so you guys hit all of those too. So those are things that we commonly, we automatically add to our list. Yep. And so what you're going to need to do is create your own supply list. You can find a bunch of different supply list basics online, but you're going to want to kind of tweak it to fit your family's needs. One tip is to have a mix. You want to have some that are fresh, some that are frozen, some that are shelf stable. And especially now on the shelf stable, because we are in the middle of hurricane season. And one of the tips that I would recommend is if you haven't prepared a hurricane kit, instead of buying everything all at one time, go ahead and buy a little bit each grocery trip. So even if it's canned foods, it's foods that you can still utilize in a healthy meal pattern. So instead of right before the storm, what do we typically, a lot of folks will buy those lickies and chewies, the salty snacks, things that are in bags already prepared. And another good tip, have a manual can opener. You got it. So again, you're going to have a much healthier option to choose from if you purchase a little bit as you go. And that's a whole nother session on hurricane prep. But so here are one example from the American Heart Association. And I blew up the handout just so you could see it. So when you're thinking about stocking your pantry, think of it for built, like it says, dinner builder items. So things that you can put together with other foods you may have on hand as part of your basics, whether it's a fresh fruit or a fresh vegetable, pasta, things that you can actually make together put together as a meal. All right. So we've looked at what we have on hand and maybe our basic supplies. Hopefully that's got you thinking about what you should have in your pantry or your freezer to get ready, not only for hurricane season, but just for quick meals. And that's where that established the go-to meals comes in, because we're ready to meal plan at this point. So what does your family like? What are some quick go-tos that are easy to throw together? Doesn't even have to be cooked. It could be a salad, a sandwich. This is really helpful on those nights that you got home from work late, you had to run some errands, got home, and you do not feel like cooking a thing. that's where that go-to meal is. Those are good staples to have. Another one is cook once, eat twice or more to stretch that food dollar. Yep, canned tuna is a good one. One of the things that I like, and I know a lot of folks will have probably heard this before, but instead of leftovers, because some people cringe at the word leftovers and we don't want to waste food. But I want you to think about when you prepare your foods or your meals, are you preparing it in order not only to have that meal, but prepare it in order to use it again? So it's planned overs or planning for another meal. So couple of options. So you can either add additional ingredients to the one you originally made to enhance it. Let's say you had, I don't know, pulled chicken and you made a barbecue sandwich out of pulled chicken. Well, then the next night, okay, we're still going to have pulled chicken, but let's roast some veggies. So it's a little different. Or, hey, let's make a sub and put the veggies on it, just to change it up a little bit. Another option is go ahead and use some of that pulled chicken for tacos, or maybe you want to use it a breakfast burrito. So again, just try to plan different ways that you can stretch that one product. That way you're not cooking all the time. Let's say you plan to cook one day a week or twice a week. That's a lot less than cooking a full week, especially working full time. Recipe books. I feel like I should be a chef based on the number of cookbooks that I own. And however, I encourage you to take either, it could be a digital cookbook or just recipes you have put together online. You can save it digitally or just put it in a notebook, but something that your family actually likes to consume or you like to consume, things that they give you the thumbs up, or maybe they said, hey, we like this recipe, but maybe a family member said, oh, it was a little too spicy. So you can write some notes in there, but these could be some of those go-to meals. That's good. I love that, Constance. Yep. They're supposed to eat it all night. That is one thing that is really challenging. And that's where another part of our talk today is, how do we know what our portion sizes are? Sticking to those serving sizes, it can be very challenging, especially if you have growing teens. All right, I think we covered that. Oh, let me jump back real quick. So I forgot to mention, so this is from IFAS State University. It's a 5-day meal planning worksheet. One of the things I really like about it, they only do it for 5 days, but of course you can just copy it and for additional days. But one of the things, it's got it broken down for snacks, but I like it because it has a space for you to write things on hand. And so you've got that information there that you can write. But one thing, let's say if you're going to say, I need side dish for green beans. Well, you can write a note, have 1 cup on hand, need 4 servings or 3 servings or whatever. So you can make some additional notes on that. This is just another option for a meal planning tool. It's called My Plate Grocery Game Plan Tool. And it's a fillable sheet that you can utilize through My Plate. And again, there's many types of printables that you can use. You can use good old-fashioned pen and paper too, but you want to aim for that 2 weeks of meal plans. Here are some sites that not only, of course, there's tons of recipes online, on Pinterest, on TikTok, on Instagram, you name it, we've got them there. But I wanted to share some that I know are healthier options and a little more budget friendly. And first one is nutrition.gov/recipes. And so what I like about this one is on the left-hand side, you can actually, so let's say if you've got, hey, I've got a certain vegetable in the fridge left over, I didn't utilize it all, I don't want it to go to waste. So what else can I make with it? So you can click on vegetable, maybe find it within the recipes. Also, it has it by meal type as well as season. And one that I really like about this one is 30 minutes or less. That's a really good one. Nutrition.gov/recipes. The next one from USDA is myplate.gov, My Plate Kitchen. And on this one, you can save some of your favorite recipes to create your own online cookbook. And another great tool that does have some seasonal recipes. I love this cucumber salad with tomatoes. I thought it was perfect for summer. And if you are a visual learner, and need to kind of see something made before you make it, they have a great list of YouTube videos that you can watch that take you through the process of some of the recipes. Now, the foundation for fresh produce, you can Google "have a plant" and it will pop up. This is probably one of my favorite places to go because it does have a ton of information like My Plate, but it has a section on budget cooking. It talks about, and it's not just fruits and vegetables, but it does offer some plant-based options. And if you go under the fruits and veggies section, if you're not familiar with a particular fruit or vegetable, it will tell you how to select it, how to prepare it, what the nutrients are, and then link some of those recipes that they have available. Some of the topics you can see on the right-hand side, I wanted to point it out because if you are dairy-free or if you have a certain dietary need, those options are available on this website as well. Another great website for recipes. I love it. This is the IFAS State extension. They have a whole website dedicated to Spend Smart, Eat Smart, and it is fabulous. And they have a variety of different tools that can help you be successful when meal planning, also to fit within that budget. I love that they have a quote on the, as soon as you go to the page, it says you can eat healthy and stick to a tight grocery budget. They address not only the budget, but different tastes, culture, and they even have a food budget tracking sheet. So remember we talked about if you haven't tracked before to find out what you're actually spending, they do have a budget tracking sheet on this website as well. This is just an example of one of the recipes I clicked on because I wanted to show you how much information it has. It's got the ingredients and also the instructions, but it goes through, it tells you the serving size and cost per serving. Now, this is based in Iowa. They also give some extra tips, the nutrition information, and you have the option to print the recipe for your handy dandy cookbook that you're going to create, right? All right, how are we doing, Patricia? We have any questions so far before I jump into making our list?
I don't see any questions that have come through, just people commenting on their on their different ways that they budget and
I love it. I want to save the chat because this will be a good thing to share. All right, so now we are ready. We've got our meal plan mapped out. We're using one of those cool sheets I just shared with you. Now you've got it. We're ready to write our list. And so we know the list is intended to keep us on track so that when we go into the store, we're only getting the items we need for that week. And this is also going to help us avoid the impulse buys. So if you have to walk down the store like this and just grab what you need, do that. Let's stay on that budget. You're going to list out your ingredients for the meals that you've planned, then double check what you have on hand, cross off what what you have on hand, but make sure, I can't tell you how many times I've gone to the cupboard or the pantry, grabbed cereal, and the box was in there, the bag was in there, but it was empty. So do a visual check to make sure you actually have something in that product. Another tip that I mentioned about like how many dishes do you need to prepare just to make sure you're getting the amount that you need. And you also can see that there are some apps that are available that you can use for grocery lists. Not promoting one over another. The only one out of these that I have personally used is the Our Groceries. One thing I really like about it is because I don't forget it at home, for one, because I always have my phone with me. But it also allows me to share it with family members. So if I make a run to the grocery store, I can send a text, hey, add your add the things you need. If you haven't already, doesn't mean I'm going to buy it, but add it to a certain time and it will sync with your phone. And I think it's quite convenient. If you're traditional, you want to keep that pen and paper list, by all means, just put it in a convenient place where people can write, family members can write on there as soon as something goes out. You got to get them trained to do that, right? Another thing to consider is that a lot of our retailers are going to have apps for their specific store, and they often have shopping lists that will automatically categorize it by areas of the store. So a lot of these apps will do the same thing, but it requires you to set it up in the beginning. So a little bit of work up front, but a huge saving of time later on. And again, if you have the Notes app on your phone too, that's a great option too. I don't know if it's shareable or not, but something to think about. All right, we've got our list. Now, these are some of the common money saving tips that you can add to your shopping trip. So most of our stores are going to have a sales cycle. So you might see an item that's on sale 1 week for 10 to 15%, and then a couple weeks later, it's a buy one, get one. You'll start to recognize some of these sales cycles, especially our holiday sales. And then, of course, you can use coupons. There are actually still paper coupons around, and you might even find a coupon on the bottom of a receipt or on the back of a receipt. You can get the digital coupons that are going to oftentimes be in that store app, but also check the website. So let's say if you have a specific product in mind, go to that manufacturer's website to see if you can print another coupon, because a lot of our stores will allow, but you do need to check with it, but they'll allow that coupon stacking. So the store might have a sale, and then they allow you to add that manufacturer's coupon on top of it. So it's like a twofer, which is great because it's, again, saving you money, which is what we want to do. There's also the peelies that are actually on the products that you can peel off. And then a couple of our retailers actually have a coupon kiosk that you can get additional coupons if you go into the store. I'm sure that's a trick to get you into the store to buy more, but it is another option to save money. And then, of course, circulars have been around for a long time, and those are just our grocery ads that we typically get. And I think it was David that said, he gets those and can plan the meals based on what's on sale. Check online too, because most of these are going to be online these days, and you can get a preview of what's next week. And within those store apps, there's oftentimes those loyalty programs, which may offer different discounts, digital coupons, and then also ways to earn points for different things. One money saving tool that MyPlate does offer is on this, it's Shop Simple with MyPlate. And what this is, you can go to the website too, so you don't have to download the app. The website looks pretty similar. And what it's going to do, it's going to allow you to select a food. Like you can see the bananas on there. You can select it. It's going to provide how to select that type of food. They'll give you serving tips, budget-friendly recipes. They'll provide you with the nutrition information. And if you participate in the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, there's even a savings section where you can go to find the stores that accept that program, and incentive programs that can help you save a little bit more. And under the more section, which is those 3 little dots, like the little hamburger right here, hopefully you can see that tiny. If you click that and hit more, it even has the MyPlate plan that we looked at earlier on that gave you the amount of food groups to eat from each section. So it does have some good opportunities for some tips to help you save in the store. So we talked about aiming for whole fruits and varying our veggies, but for both fruits and vegetables, one way to save is, of course, looking for what's in season. And that document you see there, Florida Produce, fresh from Florida, it's going to give you a seasonal calendar of some of the produce that you might find in our grocers that are going to be on sale and or in season rather, because when they're in season, they're oftentimes a lower cost or on sale. And another option is if you don't want to buy fresh because you think it's going to go bad, frozen is a great option. Just look for those bags that are without sauce or added sodium. Those are a really great staple to have on hand. Also with canned products, just choose low sodium or no salt added. Just because it's a canned product doesn't mean it doesn't have health benefits. So all three are great sources of nutrients. Fresh is best, but if you can't get fresh or it's going to go to waste, choose one of those other two options. And then we're moving on to the grain section. We know that we want to make half of our grains whole grains. And our money saver here is purchasing larger amounts. So if we're purchasing larger amounts of oat, let's say oatmeal or grits, or instead of those individual packages, that's not going to save us. We're going to save us a lot more money if we just buy it the larger size. Let's say if bread is on sale, you have freezer space, go ahead and buy an extra loaf and freeze it. Another option for whole grains is go to your bakery. Do they have any day-old bread that they'd be willing to sell? It's probably at a discounted price. There's also bread stores, your local, or if you have a local bakery available to you. But of course, I want you to look for the whole grains. And that's going to be a product that's going to have all three of those parts that you see on the grain anatomy. It might taste a little different, but just think about that being all the good stuff that we need, all the nutrients. Another great thing for us as consumers is you see these 3 whole grain stamps at the bottom. Those are telling us that, yes, there are some whole grains within that product. And I'm going to hurry quickly to this next page. So what we want to look for on the nutrition facts label, if we don't see that stamp, we need to figure out, is it a whole grain? And some of the terms that we're looking for on the ingredient list, which is usually down below the nutrition facts, sometimes it might be off to the side, but you want to look for whole grain as one of the first ingredients for sure, but whole grain and let's say oats or whatever the name of the grain is, whole wheat, stone ground whole grain, brown rice is a whole grain, oats, oatmeal, and wheat berries. And if you're not familiar with what a wheat berry is, it's just the edible part of the wheat kernel. Let's take a closer look. So what do you say? Type it in the chat. Which is a whole grain, A or B? Remember, you're looking for those terms. Should be pretty easy on this one. Winner. Okay, good job. All right, so we know that it's going to be B for sure. What gave it away was the whole grain wheat. So that fell into this first bullet point here. It gave us whole grain and then the name. But the Whole Grain Council, they have a huge list of resources on their page if you want to find out a little bit more about the whole grains, as well as myplate.gov. And for proteins, this is where I was talking about portion sizes, is maintaining those serving size recommendations are essential. You also want to check price per serving. Now, notice I didn't say unit pricing, and that's typically what you see on the tags that are posted in the grocery store, because we want to know what the price per serving, because oftentimes with our meats, we're not going to be eating the bones. So is it really the unit pricing we want to look at? What happens when we remove the bones? The ounces are going to be less. Obviously choosing lean cuts, and that could be like, let's say lean beef, top round, flank steak, sirloin. But what you're looking for are kind of those words, loin. I recommend, if you haven't met your butcher, do so. They can look for loin cuts, round cuts, especially if you're not familiar with some of the products. And then with seafood, we want to go for some fatty fish because those are going to be higher in omega-3s. But don't knock the canned seafood, okay? If we can buy fresh or you can get it frozen, you can do that as well. But canned is not terrible, you guys. So I just had salmon croquettes, I think is how it's pronounced, and they were absolutely delicious. And typically, proteins are going to be the most expensive part of our meal. So we really have to pay close attention, and that's where serving size, as well as trying some different proteins. So varying our proteins is part of My Plate's messages. And then also you see on there, connect with your local sources, not just your butcher, but do you have any local farms that are selling meat? So just quickly, because I know we're running out of time, I wanted to show you, this is what unit pricing, this is what you typically see on the shelf. And I'm going to go through this fast, but I'll see if I can find some links and handouts to share with you on this. So on the left-hand side, we've got our shredded chicken and its rotisserie. And on the right-hand side, we just have a full rotisserie seasoned chicken. So it is simply taking the cost of the item, dividing it by the ounces to give us how many ounces or the cost per ounce. So in this case, it looks like our rotisserie chicken is winning. This was from the same store. And we're saying, let's say we have a family of 4. So we want to go ahead and we're going to now look at, well, we know the unit pricing told us, but what happens when we take all those bones out? Is it still going to be equivalent, or is it going to be equivalent, or is it going to be more or less? So let's find out. This is where we're looking at cost per serving. And again, I'm going to go through this kind of quickly. But if you want to compare the ounce to ounce. So typically with a rotisserie chicken, it's about 60 to 70% of the product that's going to be the meat. So we're just going to say for this example, we're going to say it's 25 ounces instead of that 36. So the cost you see below is that unit pricing. So if we debone that rotisserie chicken, so around 25 ounces, you can see how I've done it. So I've taken that 25 ounces for 4-ounce servings. So we're going to get 6 servings out of that rotisserie chicken versus the 4 on the already shredded. So, and then we're going to go ahead and take the $5.97, which is what the rotisserie seasoned chicken costs, divided by the 6 servings we're going to get out of it. And it's about $1 a serving. So if we're looking at the $2.49 a serving minus the $1, we're saving $1.49, and we're going to have a couple of extra servings that we can even freeze. So we know that that cost per serving is on the big rotisserie chicken, the full. We don't want to pay for convenience in this instance. All right, I'm gonna shimmy. Here we go. So the last food group is dairy, and My Plate recommends to choose the fat-free or low-fat dairy. And this is one you can look at unit pricing. So that first one, the ones that are already on the shelf, use those to compare the different brands of milk. However, when you're looking at yogurts, you may want to do servings, servings per price or price per serving, rather than just the unit pricing. So I'm just going to throw this out there. I don't know if we have time for it because we only have a couple minutes to spare. We might need more information. Which one do you think you would purchase just by looking at? So this is unit pricing. So let's just say for unit price, which one would you choose? We'll say it's A, B, and C. And we're just looking at that price per ounce. You got it, Gail. B would be the option here, the best option. Even though we're thinking, wow, $2.99 fits my budget. But if I need, let's say 6 ounces, this is going to be the best buy. Great job. All right. When you're shopping, regardless of the product, don't forget to check out your farmers markets, your community supported agriculture, your farm stands, the U-Pick farms. Those are all, you can add those into your food budget. If you're not sure, this USDA localfoodportal.com, you can click whether or not you're looking for a CSA or a farmer's market in your area, and it will provide you those that are listed within the USDA system. And then finally, preventing food waste. Things that you can do is scrap cooking. If you scan this code, I think this was on the USDA website. So things that you might commonly toss or compost, like the broccoli stem, it's going to have recipes in this scrap cooking, and it was developed actually by IKEA, and it's got some cool little recipes in it. So check that out. A great way to reduce some of your food waste. Being flexible is really essential. If you find some of your produce is spoiling early, swap some meals, freeze it if it's needed, to just reduce that waste. And then one thing I can't recommend enough, because this is often why a lot of food gets thrown away, and that's because of the preparation part of it. Get in the habit, as soon as you get home, pre-prep your food for the recipe. I think that's essential. And then finally, storing foods properly, because if they aren't stored in the right place or the right temperature, then it can spoil much, much quicker. The Food Keeper app is just another tool, and I'll make sure I throw that in. This is really helpful whenever you're storing particular foods. You can go to the app or the website, click on a food item, let's say poultry, and it's going to tell you the best storage methods for that. So again, I'll send these links out. So quickly, I know I'm a minute over. Recap, the things to eat healthy on a budget is knowing your budget. Take the time to meal plan. It really does take some time up front to save not only your time, but money, and lean on the side of improving your health, and of course, ways to save and reducing food waste. And I hope you guys stay in touch. My email is down at the bottom. You can, the QR code will take you to all the social media, blogs, any way that you need to get in touch with me is there. So hopefully you have some great takeaway tips today. I know it was quick and fast. Keep me posted if you save some money. I can't wait to hear about it and improve your health.
Thank you so much, Wendy. We are over the hour, but does anybody has any pressing questions?
Oh, good. I'm glad this was helpful.
Yeah, it was a lot of information, but it was good information, and it's good this being recorded because you can all go back and watch the sections.
Yes, and she said that you would send us an email with some handouts or something?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so I'll send out an email with a link to the recording and the website where you can find and download the different handouts.
Yep. Thanks, everyone.